Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast.
And we get the back view of him. And I mean, it's just a mega.
52 yards is a long shot. Magnum PI, what we named him. No idea.
Just a magnum.
Yeah, just a magnum.
Come on cam last year, we said probably 150, mid 150.
Yeah.
Same doe from the morning come out with that 9-pointer.
Here steps out this 90-inch 8-pointer. You're like,
I'm like, okay, well, there's still a buck back there grunting.
Yeah.
And then out steps like another 90-inch 8-pointer. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm like, deer, right there.
Yeah, like
and he's already
yards.
30 yards.
Yeah.
He was literally 5 yards from the base of the tree. Could have been, had a buck down at 1:40 in the afternoon, back there deep on public. 3 does come out pretty early. It was like 245, 24-yard shot, sent the combat veteran, and I tell you what, man, dude, it just smoked. We always get so jacked up when the other person kills. It's just almost like we got it done.
Yeah. And when you killed that doe, I was like, hell yeah, man.
And we come down here to Missouri.
I asked Comey one more time. I'm like, is it a good buck? And he goes, yeah, real good, solid buck. I'm like, all right, boom. And the deer just drops. Sure. Super special to me.
Whitetail Legacy Podcast, bringing you back to the hunt and leaving a legacy. Baller Rut.
This is the Whitetail Legacy Podcast, still coming at you on a Wednesday, hopefully on Prime Rib Day, coming in your ear holes all the way from Oklahoma. Well, he's actually from Arizona, talking about Oklahoma on this week's episode. We got Brian Curtis on from Territory Films and Territory Outfitting. Super solid guy. Found him online. Really enjoyed his films. Check him out on YouTube at Territory Films. Some self-filming from mountain lions to buffalo to bear to the tam rocks of Oklahoma. So super cool. Bow hunting, rifle hunting, just tells a good story, breaks it down for you. Really enjoyed it. Let's get into the people that make this possible. We'll get into the show. We'll start out with the VIP. I've been shooting the combat veteran into some foam here recently. She's flying true. I was going to maybe potentially take it fifth season turkey, but I just don't have the need to.
Yeah.
Like after this weekend, I'm like raw dogging, no blind.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Filming. There's just no way to get a ball.
And then
bow drawn back.
Throw a bow on top of it.
Absolutely not. I was going to do it. I feel good. I was shooting out 60 a while back. I was feeling real confident, but I'm not. I'm just going to take the gun.
Yeah, if we were going to Nebraska, I'd feel confident.
Unless
I
just crush one real easy third season. Then I might just wing it. Just dumb. But more than likely that's not going to happen. So
right.
I'm just saying shotgun. But you got the VIP Veteran Broadhead shout out.
Yeah, this week's VIP Veteran Broadhead shout out was sent in by Jonathan Ward. He is going to nominate his great-grandfather, Robert Ward, who fought in the Pacific during World War II. So, Jonathan, we appreciate you sending that in to us, and we appreciate your great-grandfather for signing up. And I feel like back then, like, a lot of people just were in the military, that was just something like everybody did. So, once again, we appreciate that, and we're still here today fighting the fight.
Yeah, big shout-out to your grandpa for putting the time in. We appreciate that. And check out his show,
Mossy Creek Outdoors.
He's doing kind of some live podcast and promoting his brand. So if you looking for some more content, check him out. Get into ECW calls, all your custom call needs. We're breaking out the slate this weekend, hitting some real soft purrs.
Yes,
and that hen came in.
Perfect.
That hen came right in. So that slate for the purr is just, you can do it with a mouth call, but it's hard to get a quiet purr with a mouth call. You know what I mean? Because you need some air force, but that slate, man, is just sliding. So, Exodus trail cameras. We're going to start something this week with the trail cam tip of the week, brought to you by Exodus Trail Cams. And when we don't have a sale going on for Exodus or something that we want to promote, we're going to bring you this tip every week. And this week's tip is, if you have trail cameras that you've pulled from the woods and they're sitting on the counter, they're sitting on the gun case, wherever they're sitting, get them out and pull them batteries out. This the time of year that those contacts will corrode from those batteries if there's any moisture in them. If they're out in the garage getting condensation, if you get those batteries out, it's going to make that camera last longer, and you won't have the troubles of next year you put batteries in and it don't work. So, but with the Exodus's 5-year no BS warranty, it's something that you don't have to worry about, but you're still going to be down a camera until they get it replaced or fixed. So that's something to think about. Get those batteries out, and you'll be in a lot better shape. Next level deer supplements. As you guys heard on the last podcast, we'll be not going out there to kill a Merriam this year. With everything going on, we're not able to go. They shut down the non-residents, but just a huge shout out to them and their brand for just being solid dudes and still inviting us out. And they're already planning next year to come out there. So just a big shout out to them. Congratulations to Drake, Scott's son. He's out there dropping the hammer, showing us up.
Yeah.
And Nate, I don't even know if Nate's picked up the gun yet.
I know.
But Scott's been out, so Nate, get out there and try to kill a bird, man.
Yeah.
All right,
At least we know Scott can get somebody on a bird.
Yeah.
So I like that.
I
like
that. And last but not least, Ingram's Outdoor Obsession. All your taxidermy needs for our local guys. He's crushing out the bucks. He's also crushing the film. He went on a turkey hunt with his daughter and another guy and filmed it for him. First time out. He came by. We showed him a little bit on the camera, not a bunch, and he crushed it. Did an excellent job. And gave that guy a really cool edited short film. He said that guy was almost in tears. Just
Really?
because it's something
Awesome.
that he's not used to.
See,
so,
that right there just makes it all worth
yeah,
it.
it makes
all
it all worth it.
Banging the shit around in the morning and
Yeah.
everything, it just makes it worth it when you get to see somebody like your grandma and grandpa
Yeah.
watching that video. Like, that was totally worth
super,
everything.
super awesome. So shout out to him trying to get in the filming gang. It's a tough start, but once you get into it, you'll figure it out. If we can do it, anybody can, like we always say. All right, let's get into the show. All right, we got Brian Curtis on the line from Territory and Territory Films and Outfitting. How you doing today, man?
Doing good. How you guys doing?
Doing good. This is an early podcast of what we're used to, so we should be fresh right after work. We lined it up, and you're going to be rolling off the Richter right here on Wednesday, so it's just a couple days early. So we appreciate you coming on, man.
You bet. I appreciate you guys having me and appreciate you taking time to look at the films and look through some of the apparel that we've got going.
Yeah, I was, like I said, I was watching that film about 3:34 in the morning, and I really enjoyed it. Self-film, good voiceover, good storytelling. Really like how you broke down the maps and figured out the extra time that you had when they were daylighting, the natural ground blind. It was just super cool for me. We're from the Midwest, something that we're not used to. You did a really good job breaking it down. So let's just start off with where they can find you and what film we're going to talk about.
Sure, you bet. So we've got a couple of different websites. One's the Territory Outfitter, which we do a little bit of big game hunting, elk, black bears, lions, and mule deer here out in Arizona. And then the other website is territoryfilm.com, and that's where all the short films and the apparel line. We've got a variety of hats and shirts and T-shirts and hoodies, all that kind of stuff. So we've got two separate websites and things for people to look at, but one single brand.
Nice. Yeah, I dig the apparel, man. The bear skull and the mountain lion, pretty cool. We got a buddy that's coming on here an episode after you to talk about my mountain lions, or we'd be talking about your mountain lion, because that's something that he just went out and did. He got Drew in Nebraska. So
yeah,
pretty awesome. Me and homie are pretty excited to hear the story firsthand. But we're going to talk whitetail with you. That's something that we know fairly well. We think, probably not though, but we know absolutely nothing about Oklahoma whitetail. So,
well, not many people do, but there's been a lot of publicity on a big one that a young boy killed this year downstate from where I hunt. Where I hunt's on our family ranch in the Oklahoma Panhandle near a town called Guyman. So the state of Oklahoma is almost divided in half. The eastern half's kind of got trees and mountains, and the western half is your more open plains, farmland, and tons of wind all the time.
Yeah, your rifle season hunt, it seemed like it was windy the whole time, but super cool how you can find those deer out there. It just blows me away. It's kind of like what you turkey hunted in, but no trees, like the same rolling hills, but just no trees. And It's crazy that there's that many deer out there. I don't even know what they eat, man.
You know, it's almost like antelope hunting, really, because they rely heavily on their eyesight because they can just see forever. But what you catch a lot of them out in that flat rolling hill country coming off of, surrounding wheat fields or corn fields, that kind of thing. And they come into those flat areas and the breaks to bed into yuccas and, different draw areas where they've got vantage points for a visual of the whole area.
Yeah, so I watched the grounded one. That was my favorite whitetail episode you had.
Yeah.
I just love the on the ground bow and the natural blind. So you were in yucca there too, correct?
No, so the grounded film took place in the river bottom where we've got a lot of tamarack trees.
Tamarack, that's what it was.
Tamaracks, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So what is a tamarack for the listeners and for me? Because I watched the film, but just go ahead and describe it.
Sure. Well, tamaracks are kind of a glorified tree bush. They'll get 10 or 15 feet tall. They're hell on your water source. They suck all the groundwater up. So the river bottom's been dry for, I don't know, probably at least 20 years. I remember some water in it on occasion when I was younger, but they really pull from it. They're like a variety of big sticks that just kind of come up. They're really dense. And the deer really take cover in them because once you get underneath them, they kind of branch up like the shape of a yucca. But obviously a lot taller. But the deer will go into the tamaracks in bed, and when they're laying on the ground, you can see a lot of movement, but you can't see if you're 4 feet up into the, off the ground, down into it really. So it takes a lot of time and effort because you're hunting a bedding ground, right? So you've got to be really, really cautious and careful because if you start bumping the deer out of their beds, you're going to be hard pressed to have deer.
Yeah, so just for the guys in the Midwest, to me it looks like a skinny hedge tree. So the limbs grow like crazy, all different directions. No, not like a oak or walnut where it grows up. There's a few limbs that come out. It's more of a bush than a tree. So for the Midwest guys, imagine a timber full of short, skinny hedge timber, which would be incredibly hard to hunt. Me and homie would have no idea what to do in that. You know what I mean? You can't get a stand in. I'm sure because it's still kind of, the scent game there would be completely changed. But let's just go ahead and break down the hunt on grounded. Did you have a name for that buck?
I didn't have a name for him, and I've just never really ever named deer. Maybe because it becomes a little too personal. I don't know. But I more try to just keep them as a buck, and what their points are is how I identify them mostly.
Nice.
But
yeah.
he was a cool buck. Like I mentioned in the film, that I noticed him. He'd just shown up. There was other deer that I was chasing out in the flats that would sometimes visit the river bottoms, but nothing consistently stayed through this tamarack area, and he really did. But I noticed him a couple of years before I decided to hunt it because they come right out of the river bottoms of this tamarack bedding area into the flats. And if you're going to archery hunt in that flat country, you've got to be right place, right time with a lot of luck on your side. So, and a lot of them, like most deer, don't come out of the beds or the thicker cover till dark, and they're usually in there before dark. So when I'd found this deer on my trail cameras, I thought, well, he's got a lot of potential to be something pretty cool. With the Oklahoma deer, you're going to get a lot of typical 8s, some 10s. Every now and then you get something kind of funky. 2 years ago, we had a 22-point non-typical double main beam buck that I didn't get killed because I didn't take the shot and wasn't comfortable with it. But,
I've seen the picture of that one. I think you had a trail cam video of it, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an absolute stud. That was a cool looking buck. I was like, man, that's heavy, tight, points everywhere.
Yeah, he was a cool buck, and I was actually had him at about 110 yards. But unfortunately, I was up on a ridge with my back turned to him, trying to gather my stuff up to start walking around, and he'd come walking by looking at me, wondering what this crazy person's doing up here. So one of those classic cases of trying to self-film a bunch of things, gather up camera equipment, and the last thing you think about, your gun sitting there pointed the opposite direction, and so are you. So kind of the trials and tribulations. But this 8 point, I'd seen him on a camera. He'd showed up actually after the season, and so you'll get deer that kind of come through and cruise after the rut, looking for a last hot doe, or trying to find some food, that kind of thing, or maybe get pushed out of where they're used to staying. And so he ended up staying there, but he was just way too young, but had good frame, and I liked his attitude from what I seen on the trail cameras. And my trail cameras, I run all video on them. I don't run the photos. It's a little bit more time management for SD cards and batteries, but you gain a lot more information through video than you do just one quick picture. So I was able to study him over the course of the next year, and started kind of putting it together where he typically hung out, kind of what he did, what he liked. And then last year he was a pretty good buck, but I wasn't prepared on my end to hunt him because I hadn't studied or felt like I had enough information yet to be able to get into where he beds, set up, and not just screw up the whole bedding area for all the deer. So I'd spent another year, really strictly planning his movements, documenting everything through trail cameras. I'd see him on, through the, glassing from a ways away every now and then. I really learned where he would be, but, again, they're deer. This year we had a really early rut. I mean, by the time the rifle season started, and the rifle season was a week late and later than usual, and that rut was done by the time the rifle season started. So these deer were hungry. They were moving quite a bit, back and forth through the food. So what I was able to do over the summer last year was, I ended up building 3 different ground blinds where he was kind of primarily hanging out based on the cameras. And I think in the film, I documented the number of sightings that I had there. And, in the film, I didn't really get into the more specifics of the exact times, but by hunting that bedding ground, I was able to pick up about another 38 minutes or so of morning movement of deer, and another 47 minutes earlier every day of the deer moving in the evenings. So on a 5-day hunt, I picked up 7.5 hours of prime hunting just by being into the thicker cover where they're bedding. And what they've done, they kind of get up and they'll just mill around and in that area, and then that kind of typical half hour before dark or right at dark, they tend to head out into the flatter country. But with these trail cameras, I'd had him kind of pinned down to a glorified 8-minute window based on the average of the last 6 months of when he would come through and which direction he would head. Never knew exactly where he bed, but I knew the path that he was taking. It could have been 40 yards or it could have been 400 yards from where I had this blind, but I knew he was constantly coming through this certain path through that time period. But so I tried to get out there, everything in your mind, you think it's gonna be great. I'm gonna show up before the rifle season, hunt a week, get a deer killed, go right into the rifle season, hunt the flat country, and try to get another buck down. But that didn't work, so I spent a week there hunting, and I actually missed this deer the day before rifle season started at 20 yards, embarrassingly enough. Sometimes when this ground blind in that thick tamarack, you don't see them coming in, you don't get that preparation time, so they're just on you all of a sudden. And that's what he did. He'd stepped right around in the tamarack, and trying to self film, I'm fumbling around with the camera and trying to get a bow drawn. And one of the mistakes I made with this blind, I didn't pay attention after I built it in the summer. When I got back in it this fall, I didn't pay attention to how the limbs had progressed over the top of the the area where you sit. So when I went to draw my bow, it got up into the limbs, and just kind of one of those amateur mistakes that you're just not thinking about. So he didn't seem to spook too bad. So I hunted a few days of the rifle season, ended up having to hunt him another 5 days out of that same blind, where he ended up coming back through. And one of the one of those deals that you see in the film, batteries are kind of important if you're going to sell film. So The cameras ran out a little bit of juice and didn't quite capture the shot on film. But at the end of the day, with the filming, that to me, there's more importance to a film than capturing the kill shot. I'm big proponent on the story of what the hunt is. Every hunt's different. Every hunt unfolds differently. And it's kind of what you make of the hunt. So the story for me is within the films is kind of the important part, really, as opposed to what the industry standard is, capturing the deer, the kill shot.
Yeah, we're kind of the same way. That's why I think I enjoyed it, because you did a very good job explaining why you're in there. We just started running our trail cameras on video mode. That was Homie's idea, so props to him. That
Yeah.
just shows so much more, and the Last Breath guys kind of motivated us a little bit to do it. It just shows you so much more of what they're doing. I wish we had enough money and batteries to run them all on video, just because it just shows you so much more. We run so many cameras, though, it just be tough to keep batteries in them. It does wear the batteries down a lot quicker, but we'd have deer come through that'd be on a full run, and then we'd just have deer come through that you're just browsing, and it's the rut.
Right.
You're like, what the heck is this deer doing? Just browsing, walking around, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then he's back in 15 minutes going the opposite direction, and if you got a trail camera, you just got a picture. And if I got a buck going one way and then the other, I'm like, oh, he's looking for does. He's got to be looking for does. In actuality, he was just eating, just walking around eating, and you would have never, you don't know without video. So, but you did a very good job breaking it down, showing the extra time you had, showing your routes that the deer were taking and where you had set up. I enjoyed it, and I like that you added the little battery dying, on the film. I'm like, oh, it's coming, and like seconds before the shot, man, it's out.
Yeah.
So I'm like, God, that's terrible. Like the deer's coming in, standing there. You're like, oh, here it is, dead. I'm like, that's something that would happen to us.
Yeah. And you're out there going, well, it could be worse. I could have missed him twice, but yeah, that's a very important lesson. Even when you think that you've got enough battery left in that camera, still put it on the charger every night. Because I was thinking that I had plenty, and I didn't really film a bunch that day. But I only had maybe a minute of battery, and when you let them set in a cold truck too overnight, that doesn't help out either. So.
Oh yeah, we were turkey hunting this weekend, and I had told him, I said, I'm down to 2 bars, and then it's blinking red like a minute and a half later. I'm like, and now I got to change batteries in the camera with turkeys at 70 yards strutting, you know what I mean? So it's just never fun, and I had that happen on the buck that Homie shot this year. He came in on me, gonna film him. Literally right when I turned it on, dead. You're like, this thing was good to go, but that cold weather does. The lithiums seem to hold up a little better. We have the lithiums, which are expensive, and then we have some cheaper batteries. They're still lithiums, aren't they, though?
No, I don't think so.
No, they're not. Okay. Yeah, they just don't seem to hold up as just like cameras in a trail camera seem to hold up a little better. But yeah, I mean, it's an awesome story. You miss him the first time, second time comes around, you get it done, but the camera dies. But still an awesome buck. It's crazy that he broke every tine off that one side, or was short. Was he just short tines that side, or did he bust them all off?
No, he was about as uniform as you could get the last 2 years, and so he broke all 3 of those off, plus his brow tine fighting.
Yeah, I thought they all looked like they were broke off. I was blown away. Like it looked like they were pretty evenly broke too. It was insane. So.
Yeah, and what's crazy that these deer down there, I'm sure probably everywhere, but when they break off, they don't keep them real jagged and sharp. They start rubbing real hard. And every deer that I've killed in Oklahoma, even my brother-in-law and the deer that they've killed, anytime they've got a broken antler, it's always rounded off. They go rub pretty hard on it, or maybe they like to feel how that sharp point, jagged point scrapes on that bark.
Yeah.
But for some reason, they've always been rounded.
They really feel like they're tearing it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, getting aggressive and cutting deep with it, I guess. But yeah, he was a cool buck. And like I'd mentioned, a lot of people I'm not really a antler hunter, but I want to hunt mature animals, so it is what it is. And, I knew that he was broke before I started hunting him, but like I mentioned in the film, I was there to hunt that deer, not his horns.
Yeah.
Because you put so much time into their mind and their pattern, and, so it becomes kind of a chess game and a mental game, with the strategy for hunting that specific buck. So if he'd have broke both of his antlers completely off, I might not have shot him. But it's just kind of that challenge of figuring out, mind against mind almost, which is kind of one of the things that I thrive and like the best, especially hunting whitetails.
Yeah, we had a episode. What episode was it where he shed? You know the number? Where he shed half the rack?
Yeah.
But I can't remember the number. But anyways, we had an episode where the guy was chasing a target buck, absolute giant, high 190s.
Yep.
And he shed one side, and he still shot him. And then he was able to find the other shed. But I mean, that's just like, man, I've been chasing this deer so long. But me and homie were talking like, man, I don't know if you could. What if he dropped it on the neighbors, or it would be hard to shoot him. I don't know if I could or not. I'd have to be in the moment and be like, yeah, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
But then you'd be out there with everybody and your brother. Be like 20 people out there shed hunting this 30-acre patch timber.
I mean, that's what they did.
Yeah. So.
I mean, but you again back to the story, right? The story that individual might have had with that buck. But 190s, he was a 190. I'm sure he's got trail cameras and stuff, and he happened to shed it. I mean, it's kind of unfortunate luck, but you're still chasing that deer.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't remember if he missed earlier, if he missed the year before, or if he missed earlier in the year. But the deer was at like 20 yards, and he hit a limb, and it was the year before, because then the next year that limb was gone.
Yeah, he had missed it the year before, so he had a lot of history with this deer, and that's an epic story.
Yeah.
That was one of the coolest stories.
Yeah.
Deer died in a creek and floated down, and he got lucky. A lot of luck on the recovery, but
you got to have that luck for sure. But I mean, there's something that's kind of magical, really, when you develop that, that not really relationship, but that obsessive need to kind of learn this deer. When you're hunting one specific animal as opposed to just hunting an entire species itself, it's a lot more of an intimate type hunt, I think.
Yeah, we always say that too. I killed Missouri, and I was just like, it doesn't feel as good because you go down there out of state, you don't have the history with the buck. You don't have the trail cam history and years of chasing them. And yeah, you got a kill, you got a nice buck down, but you're just like, just saying it's good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. You get a good deer, and like you said, if you're going to go out of state and hunt, you're chasing a species, depending on the kind of time that you've got to put in, which, time's pretty valuable and limited for everybody, especially if you're traveling long distance to go hunting. You can only do so much. So you don't necessarily get that kind of, close encounter in the planning with a hunt like that. But still, those kind of hunts are great too, because you develop something at some point during that hunt with a certain buck or bull or, whatever you're chasing. You'll see them at late, first light or last light, and you start hanging out in that area, and you start to chase and hunt one animal that you don't have a history with, other than just the short-term duration of the hunt that you've got.
Yeah, that's something Cody and I had a couple years ago, and I don't know if you got a buddy or somebody that you always talk to or bounce ideas off of, no matter how crazy they seem. You're like, I wonder what he thinks about this. But, Cody and I have talked many, many hours on the phone about a specific deer and, what we think they're doing. And then when you do finally get it done, like when we were sitting there, when Freeze was down, like, we're like, this is the feeling that we want to have. It might not be every year, but when it does happen, like, you have to really soak it in. That's something we're big on, is really soaking in that moment, and just looking back and reflecting on the story and the build up and just how it all come together.
Yeah it the mental part of the hunt, I think, is every bit as demanding as the physical part of a lot of hunts, because trying to stay out of your head, especially after you've missed the deer that you've been hunting, to try to get, half-assed positive, to think that, I still got a chance, as opposed to just kind of quit. But yeah, that developing a mental game of the hunt is definitely something that once you get it, you experience it, you kind of tend to try to thrive to achieve it more often.
Yeah, I mean, say, just even when you go on like rutcation and you're just hunting hard every day, all day, like, I mean, it's grueling. It's out there being in the cold weather, in the cold, like we do here in the Midwest. But to be out there and just have a positive mindset is something that I think gets overlooked and is something that I've really focused on the last 3-4 years is just having a positive mindset, just knowing that all it takes is 10 seconds and it can be you could have the worst year of hunting of your life. And then 10 seconds later, that buck you've been chasing for 3 years comes by. And now you're going to remember that for the rest of your life. And it's going to be the greatest year you had.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And he, like we talked about, that he was kind of broken off and stuff. He wasn't the best horned buck, on the cameras or even that I had seen down there. There's a couple of 10 points that are going to be some smokers next year, which
I'd have shot him. For sure.
Yeah, I mean, you feel like you would, but you feel like you've cheated yourself too if you come there to do something.
Yeah.
But it can backfire, right? You could never have seen that 8 point and passed up to 10 point, and there you are with nothing. So
is Oklahoma a 2-buck state or?
It is, yes.
Nice,
actually, between with archery, and then you can harvest one with a muzzleloader and then one with a rifle as well.
Nice. Yeah, I've had 2-buck state, man. Living in a 1-buck state would be devastating. It would completely change the way I hunt and everything. You'd have to be. I'm just looking for opportunity when I go out. You know what I mean? Like the first buck is always opportunity. I'm chasing a certain one. I'm going to be in his area. But if another one comes by, I mean,
on the first one,
yeah. Then the second one, I'm always like, it's this one or nothing. And then I pass deer that are bigger than the one that I shot. I'm like, man, if I'd have just waited. But that's happened to me multiple years. You're just like, well, not doing it. But the only year I was like, I'm not killing anything but one is when I shot freeze. You know what I mean? I'm passing deer, but. Is what it is. It worked out. But if I would have went that whole year and passed like that real solid 8 and everything, I'd have been like, man, I'm a dumbass.
Right.
So one thing that is cool that you were talking about, Brian, is it's not you didn't shoot or target the biggest antlered animal, but it was just the one that you kind of gravitated towards and you had the history with and all the time trying to figure out.
Yeah, and this is so I've. This is back home on our ranch, private land, which is a little bit different strategy than hunting public, right? If you find something good on public, you better get it done or the next guy will. But so this is the third, over the course of the last 7 years, I believe, I've picked out 3 bucks to try to hunt. One buck was a tall 9 point in the flat country. That had, I don't know, his brow tines were probably every bit of 8 to 12 inches. Just a good, mature-looking, awesome buck. And I had him pegged coming down these draws. One particular draw, he would come through every 4th day between 5:15 and 5:30, every 4th day. And so I went in there to try to get him killed and ran into a herd of mule deer out of the middle of nowhere and couldn't get there. So sure enough, he walked through it. But I chased that buck for 3 years and never got it done. And then after I found him when he was a 7 point during the rifle season, just an old warrior. And I just decided, you beat me for these last few years. I'm just going to go ahead and say that you won. And I didn't, so you just kind of give him the respect, right?
That's pretty cool.
And, but then the year after he was a 7, his offspring, because again, everything's typical 8s and 10s out there. You get an inline 9, and that's kind of a genetic that stands out to you. And so the year after he was a 7 in that flat country, I did. He's the buck that I shot in that Flatlands film.
Yeah.
That I did. He's an offspring of that buck that I had been chasing the 3 years before.
Yeah, that's such a cool hunt, man. To be able to see him way out like that and maneuver through the draws on them, you know what I mean? And they're just out there, no timber. Just like, gosh, it's just insane to me, you know what I mean? But that's going to be the new trend. It was saddle hunting. Now it's trying to traditional bow. In 2 years, it's going to be like, all right, I'm only chasing this deer 2 years. If I don't kill him, I'm going to let him pass because he beat me.
Yeah.
I'm calling it now. 2 or 3 years, this is going to be a trend.
Yeah. People should be smarter than me. You should probably
I know,
shoot that deer.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it takes me 5-6 years to kill some of these deer. I'm just not. Yeah. I just got to get lucky. Is what I got to do. I just got to. Me and homie were talking the other day. If you want to get close to them, we got you, man. But if you want to get it done, it's
iffy.
It's iffy. But if you want to, we'll be all over them. Your turkey and deer, that we'll be all over them. But just can't seal the deal. I think that's just the knowledge and the age. The longer you're hunting, you find tips and tricks to figure it out. But we're always in the dice.
We got like a 50-yard buffer on us.
Yeah. We just need that much more. We just need 50 yards. That's all we need.
Yeah.
We're always within. We're always within 80 yards of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it makes for good footage, that
Yeah.
way,
Yeah. Oh yeah, we could get them on film all day.
Yeah.
But actually sealing the deal and getting them done, unless I got a gun in my hand, I'm struggling the last 2 years. I haven't killed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, 2, right?
2, yeah.
Yeah, I
2
haven't
we've
killed
done.
2 years with a bow. Yeah. Brutal.
Well, it'd been, getting back on our ranch, and I took a little time off to get serious about golf, or thought I wanted to be. So I didn't hunt necessarily every season, but this buck that I killed this year with my rifle in that flat country was the first whitetail I killed in 23 years.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
nuts.
I'm sorry, that one with the bow, the inline 9 was the first one, but the first one with the rifle in 23 years was this year.
Wow. You're out there hunting antelope and elk and bison and all kinds of other stuff. For you, it's probably hard to pick what to hunt. You got so much stuff around that's, reasonably close. You're like, what do I want to do this year? Do I want to be serious about elk? Do I want to be serious about mountain lion? Like,
Again, I wish I was that smart, but unfortunately, if there's an opportunity to hunt it, I'm probably willing to try.
yeah, that's like us. We're so focused on whitetail. I think if we tried to do anything else, we don't have enough vacation time for one, but for two,
Right.
it'd be like, I can't. People are always like, why don't you travel out of state? I'm like, I can't kill them in the state I'm at. So
Right.
We can barely
Well, in
get ready
Arizona,
without hunting.
yeah.
In Arizona, we can't even get drawn as residents to hunt our own state. It's so competitive out here with the draw system for elk and mule deer. So,
That is insane, man.
I mean, antelope is for residents. I mean, you're looking at double-digit points just to even sniff a tag. I mean, so you've got to go out of state out here
Wow.
That's insane.
if you want to hunt. We do get archery deer over-the-counter tags, which is nice because you're hunting both the mule deer and the coos during the rut. But hunting animals during the rut with a bow, I think is, I think it's tougher. Right?
Yeah, if they're not on a pattern and you're not in a dead set pinch point, which we're out there, I don't even know if you got pinch points like we got. Definitely not like we got. You know what I mean? If you're, there's been a lot of times that even if you are bow hunting, the buck doesn't stop or goes by too fast anyways, that you don't even get the shot. Like this year, absolute legend, 55 yards chasing does. You ain't pulling them off that doe for anything, and you're not going to shoot at a buck that's darting around, let alone at 55 yards. So if that had been early October, he'd probably just been browsing, walking around. You might have been able to take a 50-yard shot, you know what I mean? But he's bumping off other bucks, running around, chasing does. It's a different ball game. You see more deer in the rut, but they're not as calm and cool, as they are. So they're a little harder to get within bow range.
And what I found out a lot about these deer in Oklahoma, I mean, it's probably like whitetail everywhere. I have not really hunted whitetail anywhere else, but those bucks are hungry after that rut. And I saw bucks coming in just right after the rut running does off of feed and stuff like that. So that makes kind of a smart choice on how to hunt that. They're going to be hungry. So water holes are always a given, but as the time goes on, they're either going to hit it mid-afternoon or out in the dark when you're probably not there. So
that's something that we never hunt around here, man. There's just too much water.
I was just going to ask that. Right. Like, is that so? That's a pretty good, obviously early season or all throughout the season spot.
Hunting water.
Yeah,
it's a good all-season spot.
That's cool.
Even during the rut, because those, sometimes this Oklahoma hunt in mid to late November, you may have some 80-degree days out there, high 70s, mid 70s. And if those bucks are on a doe, those does are going to go get water, and those bucks are going to follow right in. So if you're hunting water during those hot days, everything's a lot calmer. It's hot. Those does aren't really, the bucks aren't really interested in how those girls are smelling. So they're just kind of following along. They know it's going to be close, but they'll come in, let the does will drink. Same thing with like elk, they'll do the same. But everything's a lot calmer. So if you can hunt that water, find a good water spot on a hot day, that's a pretty successful opportunity there.
Yeah, I ran a trail camera on a creek crossing, and it always has water. And I think you and I were down there, and you asked me, you're like, did you ever get any pictures of a deer taking a drink of water? And I had one buck come through after a doe, and then he stopped and got a drink. So I don't know if that doe just wasn't ready or whatever. But just like Cody said, that's not something we get to hunt, as a tactic, is a water source. Like, it's always kind of in our mind.
Like, it's there, but you're like, I'm not
yeah.
going to kill on that. There's no way. But.
And I think it was when the Last Breath Huntcast, when they had Chase on, they were talking about how much browse gives the deer water. It's like 80% of the water they need is they just get from their browse.
Yeah.
I'm like, no wonder nobody's drinking.
Yeah. And you guys are hunting a lot different country than the dry Oklahoma Panhandle. So
yeah, water's probably a little more scarce down there. It didn't look like there was anything green or even remotely green from your videos. You know what I mean? There's just nothing.
It's that pasture land. It gets that real pretty yellow and gold and some reds in it. But those deer are going to cattle tanks to drink. I mean, that's pretty much it.
That's cool though. I'm sure most of it's nocturnal, but still pretty cool. Be a good place to run a trail cam, get some inventory on, I guess.
Oh yeah, you can get a lot on there, and they'll hit it during the day too, mid afternoons and stuff. Because again, they're in that wide open country. They can see everywhere. They've got not really a whole lot of fear or reason to not go get a drink if they're thirsty at 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, I mean that's something that I never thought about here. The deer around here, they rely on their nose so much, probably because they can't see a long ways, and they don't like to be able to see a long ways. But I bet you the deer out there probably do like to be able to see a long ways, because that's, they're so, the way those draws run and stuff, using their nose is probably challenging. The way the wind blows through there, they can use it a little bit, but here, I mean, if you're in a timber early season that you can see 200 yards in, I mean, you're in some open timber. You know what I mean? So. Out there, it looks like you see freaking 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 yards. You know what I mean? So
as far as your binoculars will go, you can see. So
it's a whole different animal. But yeah, that's something we're not hunting waters, and like I said, during the rut, we're hunting downwind of bedding or pinch points. You know what I mean? That's pretty much our go-to. And then early season, we're just trying to. We were talking about this. I've never killed a deer on a food source. A buck. I've never killed a buck on a food source.
Always in their transition area?
Yeah, they're always in the timber. Or
well, that's because you always hunt the timber.
Yeah, it's because I always hunt the timber, I guess. I don't hunt field edges. Never had very good luck.
I'm only just ghost.
Just ghost,
and he wasn't even there to eat.
He was
there
scrapes.
to scrape.
Yeah, so I've never like killed a deer in a food plot, or a buck. I've killed does, you know what I mean? But I've never killed a buck, mature deer in a food plot or anything like that. You see them on TV all the time. They're just out there just chilling, eating. I'm like, what is going on? Deer eat in the daylight? This is crazy.
What's wrong with these deer?
Yeah,
the Oklahoma and the river bottom deer, they act completely different than the deer in the flats, and that doesn't mean that they don't spend time in both. But the river bottom deer, their horns, they fight, they're busted up. I mean, broken all to heck by the time that rut's over. In the flat country, you're hard pressed to find a deer that's not broken. I mean, that is broken at all. And I don't know if that's just because of the amount of does, or they necessarily kind of come up to breed, or they just run that flat country to where they don't really have a lot of competition. And then at river bottom, you kind of compress. And when I say river bottom, it's just dry ground with some cottonwoods and the tamaracks, but a little bit more, condensed space. The deer might be closer together, less spaced out. Might be a reason why they do fight a little more down there.
Yeah, I wonder if they're rubbing hard down there, and they're breaking it when they're rubbing, breaking points when they're rubbing. Because I'm assuming out there in the flat grounds, there's not much to rub on. Remember when we talked about that? What's a mule deer shed its velvet on? Sagebrush? Whatever. That was about 40 episodes ago.
In that flat country, they'll rub on, like if you have like a little tall yucca stalk.
Yeah.
They'll rub on that, but how they really mark their territory is a lot like antelope. They'll go out there and make scrapes and then take a leak in it.
Mm-hmm. That's how the whitetail do a lot around here. They rub and scrapes, but It's great. What are they making their scrapes out there on the flatland? Just pretty much wherever, or
Just wherever, just like
wherever?
antelope. I mean, they figure that here's my area, and whatever draw or whatever they cut across the tops at, they just make scrapes and just keep going. We've got one tree on the whole ranch in that flat country, and it'll have probably 8 or 10 scrapes under it every year.
Yeah.
I bet they're like, oh, there's my tree. Got to get to it before the other buck does.
That day I shot my buck in that flat country, I did walk up on a one-horned buck over there that was scraping. But I've seen that buck for the last 3 years, and he's always got one horn. He breaks it off so fast, it's unreal.
That's crazy. He's trying to be aerodynamic, man.
I guess.
It's so cool when we talk to someone out of state. Just realize, it shows you how little we know about deer outside of the Midwest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why you listen to a lot of people. They're like, oh, yeah, I could go to the East Coast or West Coast and kill a decent buck. I'd be so lost out there in Oklahoma flats. I'd be like, all right, I got my binoculars. I'm just going to glass around. I wouldn't even see a deer in a week probably. But
Oh, in that flat country, if you didn't see a deer in a week, you're in the wrong place.
yeah.
They may be 2 miles away, but there's pretty good deer. I mean, and it's an interesting hunt. It's different, right? Because there's not any trees, and tree stand's not an option. It's all spot and stock out there. And the more you learn the country, like anything, and what the deer's habits are, you'd like to think the higher percentage chance you got to get something killed, but doesn't always work out that great either.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, you would think that they historically do the same thing, same time of year, as long as the ground doesn't get changed a bunch. But I mean, early season food source, they'd be coming off some kind of hayfield, you'd think, and then late season's got to be a cornfield somewhere. So, but
yeah, and the winter wheat. So south of where our flat country is, for years, it's always been winter wheat. So you just post up with a southwest wind and just watch them pour off of that into the flats and the breaks, and just get ready to put a stalk on something. And I was really awesome this year when I go out there and I'm looking at it, and it just doesn't look like winter wheat anymore. And all of a sudden they changed it to cotton, so I had no food source.
oh, you're like, man, what is that going on out there?
Yeah.
Winter wheat looks a little different this year.
Yeah. What's all that? It's not snowing over there, is it? It's not green. And
deer ain't gonna be out there eating cotton. I know that. They might eat it when it's green, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
That's the new thing. Cotton food plots.
Right.
Early season cotton. You heard it first right here.
That's right. I wouldn't invest a lot of money in that, but
We don't give a lot of tips on here, but everyone is bad.
Yeah.
All you need is one cool kid to do it.
Yeah. That's all you need.
Blow.
Yeah.
Oh.
You get somebody that kills a 180-inch whitetail out of cotton field, and then you might see a lot
It's
of
all
them
cotton's all over the place. It's only good for the first 3 weeks. When it starts drying out, you're done. You got to capitalize quick. Oh, you can knit a nice hoodie after or a sweater.
Right. Yeah.
Make a couple scarves. Oh, it's a plus. It's just a plus, man. Kill a deer off it, make a pillow, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, we appreciate you coming on and talking a little Oklahoma whitetail. Like I said to all our listeners, check out his films. I know everybody's kind of stuck inside these days, and it's a great time to check out some content. You're on Vimeo, right? Are you on YouTube also?
Yeah, I've got a YouTube channel, also the Territory Film.
Okay, yeah, I was watching everything through Vimeo, through your Facebook page, but yeah, check them out on YouTube, Territory Films. I enjoyed them. They're more my style, telling a story and breaking it down, how you got it done. I think it's really cool, something that you don't see a lot of people filming out in Oklahoma like that. And like you said, you got a buffalo hunt, mountain lion hunt, bear hunt. You got a lot of stuff on there also, and got some pretty sweet swag too. I think Scott would really like that mountain lion shirt that he's got since he just killed one.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. But
well, you ought to get that one in the hat that goes with it.
Oh yeah, the hat's real sick. Yeah, so. Like I said, man, we appreciate you coming on and teaching us a little bit about Oklahoma whitetail. I don't know if we ever get to use it, but we learned something. That's the thing about the podcast, man. Talking to new people and trying to learn a little bit, and it's just fun to hear the stories and realize how little you know about whitetail and other places.
Sure. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been great talking with you.
Man, I really enjoyed this episode. Something different that we don't, really talk about. We try to get some people from not the Midwest, but this is way out there, Oklahoma. That's something that we haven't had a lot on. We had the Giant from Oklahoma on, but we didn't really talk a lot of tactics there. We just talked the story, and like I said, check out this guy's film. Something different for the Midwest guys to check out, and this time of consuming so much YouTube, you know what I mean, like I'm doing right now. I'm sure you guys are too. Weather's starting to break now, though, so they're starting to be able to get outside. I'm sure the morels are popping or close to popping where you're at. Turkeys are gobbling, so get the kids out there, take a morel hunting, try to leave a legacy, and Whitetail Legacy is out.